Hello again and welcome back to the channel. This is Michael from TOEFLresources.com. I'm calling today's video the Not a Magic Template video. Yeah, I got a fair bit of criticism for the last one, probably because of the provocative title and the suggestion that there's some quick fixes to the problem of low TOEFL speaking scores. Now, I want to emphasize that what I'm trying to do in these videos is highlight how modern technology, modern like AI technology, allows people preparing for these tests to more quickly and more efficiently identify the very specific issues that are holding them back and to provide methods to quickly address those issues. Now, I guess what I really want to do is empower students to self-study for these tests. You know, I think that technology more than ever allows students to efficiently and affordably prepare for standardized tests like the TOEFL IBT test. And yeah, maybe that will make students less reliant on traditional tutoring. Well, so be it. Now, we'll get right to it. That's enough of that kind of talk. In today's video, we're going to talk about a Type 2 TOEFL speaking question. That's the campus announcement question. It's about some change being announced and a student who's responding to it. If you want the actual question I'm answering this time, just check the video description down below. What I'm going to do is I'm going to analyze a couple of sample responses using my speaking score, which is powered by the speech rater technology used on the real TOEFL test. And if you want to try it out yourself, I'll put a link in the video description down below. If you sign up, they'll give you a few free credits so you can use it without paying. But if you do want to pay for some credits, I'll give you a coupon code you can use to save a few dollars. So first up, I'm going to play a 24-point response. Now, you'll probably think, well, this response is pretty good. What's the problem? Why is it only 24 points? And now, I guess if you've been watching the videos, you can probably guess, but let's play it and we'll find out. The campus fitness center will be closed because the school can't afford to maintain it properly, and students can go to private gyms in the city for free if they want to exercise. The man opposes this. He says the university will still have to maintain the building, even if the fitness center closes, because it could become a dangerous fire hazard. Also, it'll be very expensive to hire construction workers to tear down the building and replace it with something else. Moreover, all of the gyms in the city are quite far from the university, so it could be hard for students to reach them if they don't have their own vehicle. The closest one is more than 30 minutes away by car, and getting a taxi is hard. Okay, so that sounds pretty good, right? I've got a ton of details, I've got good vocabulary, and I've got a traditional structure, and my accent is native level. So what's the problem? Well, we can see from the speech rater report that my speaking rate is just 59 out of 100, which is slightly above average, just slightly. So that's the biggest problem. There's simply not enough words in my answer. And you can see that the other big problem is the same one I've been talking about again and again, which is phrase length, which is talking about how long my phrases are. We also call them chunks. And if you want to know what a chunk is, I mean, take a look at like this part of the answer. You can see in purple where I've spoken, and then you can see there's a big pause, and then there's another big pause, and everything in between those big pauses is a chunk. You can see one very clearly here, right? You got purple where I speak, but before it there's a big pause, and after it there's a big pause, so that's a chunk. And then there's another one here at the end, another one here. So there's quite a few chunks, and the noticeable thing about those chunks is that they're quite short. The length of each individual chunk is not great, and that's lowering my score. So I want to address these two problems very easily. And so I've tried again, and the next time I've gotten 28 points out of 30. So that's a big jump. Let's listen and see how I addressed those two major problems. According to the announcement, the campus fitness center will be closed. It says that this is because the school can't afford to maintain it properly, and students can go to private gyms in the city for free if they want to exercise. The man strongly opposes this. First of all, he points out that the university will still have to maintain the building even if the fitness center closes, because it could become a dangerous fire hazard. He also mentions that it'll be very expensive to hire construction workers to tear down the building and replace it with something else. Moreover, the man notes that all of the gyms in the city are quite far from the university, so it could be hard for students to reach them if they don't have their own vehicle. The closest one is more than 30 minutes away by car, and getting a taxi is hard. Okay, so you can probably guess like what I did here. The actual content is all the same. I haven't added any new details. All I've done is I've added in these basic transitions. I'm not going to call them a template this time. I'm going to be a serious teacher, a serious man, and I'm going to call them basic transitions. So I've added one to the beginning according to the announcement. I've added one here before I add those details. It says that this is because the man strongly opposes this. First of all, he points out that I've added a transition before I begin talking about the listening details. I've added one in the middle of the listening details, and then one before I mention his second detail. So all I've done is I've added these transitional phrases throughout the answer. And these transitions can be anything, right? It's not like a fixed template. You can really say anything there. But if you want mine, I'll put a link to it somewhere in the video description. But by doing that, by adding those words, I've greatly increased the speaking rate all the way up to 97. So I've simply added more words because that's what speaking rate is. It's the number of words per second, or the overall number of words like in the answer. But the other thing I've done is that I've increased the phrase length score all the way to 95 out of 100. And I've done this by, instead of pausing at the end of each sentence to think about what to say, I've added the transitional phrase. And by adding that phrase, I eliminate the pause, and I use that time to think about what to say. So instead of filling it with empty space as I think about what to say, I'm just using these phrases that I've memorized in advance. And if you look here at the map of the speaking, the chunks are much longer, right? So we've got one long chunk here at the beginning. So you've got a pause here and then a pause here. And then you've got a small chunk where I say I strongly, or the man strongly opposes this. And then I've got another really long chunk that makes up most of the answer. And then I've got a chunk here at the end. So I've got fewer chunks, longer chunks. That increases the phrase length score, and the overall score goes up. So I've addressed my weaknesses by using these transitional phrases. And, that's not a really hard thing to do. It does take some practice, it does take some effort, but that is something that a lot of you can do already. Now, there's other ways to address these problems, right? Instead of adding transitional phrases, I could just add more details from the conversation. I mean, there's probably a few more tiny details I could shove in there, but that's a lot harder to do. It requires me to take more detailed notes. It requires better listening skills. And sometimes there's just not a ton of details in the conversation. And so there's just nothing else I can add except these transitional phrases. And the cool thing is that if you kind of study like what ETS is asking for and how they describe this task in the scoring rubrics and in the official guide, I mean, they want you to use transitional phrases because they link ideas together. So not only is your score going up, but you are actually doing what ETS wants you to do. So it's win-win for everyone. It's fantastic, right? Okay, that's where I'm going to leave it for now. I'll probably do a couple more videos about the other two speaking questions And, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can find those. In the meantime, if you do have any questions about this kind of stuff, just leave a comment down below. I'll try to answer it as soon as I can. And, if this sort of strategy works for you, do let me know. A few people already have, and that makes me feel great. So anyways, I'm going to leave it at that, but I will see you again real soon in a new video. Take care.